All right, we're back. It's COMP391. It's Intro to Game and Simulation. And it's week 8, lesson 8, part 2. So last time we made our ship move around. So if I press P, move around, and fire. That's what it does right now. But we need to get our enemy ship going on, right? So let's go back to our factory, way back over here, and grab some kind of enemy ship. So I'm going to say enemy ship, like this. Let's see if I can grab something else from online. Hopefully we'll be able to find something that's compatible. And I'll tell you which one I grabbed if you want to follow along. All right, so there's a couple of them. There's alien spaceship, right? A couple of different ones. I'm going to choose this one. Let's see what it looks like. It's pretty ugly. How about alien ship? Alien, or just alien ship. Okay. Oh, there's some better ones. Here we go. From battleship. So that looks like. That's pretty cool. Well, it's an enemy ship. There we go. It's a free 3D model. It's still an OBJ. Okay, this is the one I'm choosing. The one on the left. If you guys are following along. And I'm going to download this one. I got to wait all these seconds again because there's going to be some advertising going on, right? And it's the alien ship from Battleship, right? I'm not using my own assets now. Remember, this is the second phase where we're using somebody else's assets, which is important, right? All right, so now, boom. Okay, I'm getting this asset. It's called alien ship, right? I download it, and I'm going to go and unzip it under downloads. There it is. Delete it. And now that I have my alien ship, I have my OBJ and my material, MTL, right? I'm going to import this thing, but how do I import this thing again? Because now I'm importing yet another thing into my game. Okay, a couple things to do. Hint, hint. We've done a lot of work here, right? Now is a good time to save. We don't want to mess this up, right? So we're going to go File, Save As, and I'm going to put it on in my downloads. Why not? I'll leave it there. And I'll call this space game.blend. Okay, and press save. Did you get it?
Yeah, but there's no WinRAR on this computer.
There's no what? Oh yeah, there's no WinRAR. You have to download WinRAR. Okay, so that's first thing. Now let's try and now remember, wherever my cursor is where it's going to come in. So I'm going to change my cursor. I'm going to press Shift S. I'll wait for you, Igor. Don't worry. Shift cursor to center. That's the first thing I want to do, right? And what I want to do is in my center is where my ship is going to come in. This new alien ship, right? So now I'm going to go to File, Import. Same thing, an OBJ type file. And this time I'm going to go up one to my alien ship and down one to this one where it says water ship, whatever. Import OBJ. Okay, cool. I got a problem. What's my problem? I got lots of problems. But what's this problem here that I'm working with, right? It's too big. Number one, it's massive. Look how big it is, right? It's not oriented properly, right? Orientation is an issue, right? It's a nice looking ship, but I got to figure out. I think this is the front. That's what it looks like the front to me. I don't know if you agree. It doesn't really matter. It could be either way, but I think it looks like this is the front, right? I don't know actually. It's a weird looking ship. Let's see what it says. Let's see what it says online, right?
Read the manual.
Yeah, well, I know. Read the F manual, right? That looks like this is the one. Looks like this is the front. This part. So let's go back to Blender. So it looks like this is the front. Okay, so that means if that's the front, it needs to point down at me, right? I'm going to go, and the other thing is, from an alien perspective, it looks like what's selected right now is called Cube 1, right? I need to rename this thing to enemy. Right, there's my enemy. Right, now there's not, good thing is there's not many pieces to it. There's only one piece to it. That's a good thing, right? It's only one piece to the enemy. Okay, good. I want to move this enemy ship way out here where it's supposed to be, right? And I want to reorient it this way. So the only way I can do that is go into edit mode, and I want to rotate it 90 degrees or 45 degrees. Yes, 45 degrees to the left, right? So I'm going to go rotate across the z-axis, 45. No, I was wrong. It's 90. And it's negative 90. Rotate across the z-axis, negative 90. Negative 90. There we go. That's the first thing. So now it's oriented correctly. Looks like it's good. Now it's too darn big, this thing, right? So I'm going to scrunch it in, and I'm going to do it now. I'm going to move this into a much smaller ship so it looks like it's doable. That's probably about right. Now I'm going to go back into object mode. Okay. Now right now, if I look at the ship itself, it's going to appear, right? And if I go into this mode here, it's still static. I want to stay, if I'm playing in 2D, it can't move from the static plane, right? I'm not looking at it to bob and weave or do different things. I definitely want it to move right and left, and there's ways of doing that, right? For example, I could start it in a spawn point. I have to decide where is it going to spawn. Somehow it's going to spawn when I play the game. It's going to spawn always. So I got to create an enemy spawning point, wherever it's going to be. And then when it spawns, I'm going to make it go down. That's my thing. And it's going to go towards my player pretty slow. All right? So it's going to be a static object that spawns at a certain location, right? And then moves down towards my player. If it collides with my player dies. Right? Okay, so let's do that. So first of all, I got to move this into another layer. I'm going to move this into layer 3 just so that it doesn't collide with my bullet for whatever reason. Okay, so I'm going to go into M for move. I'm going to choose layer 3, and now it's there. So let's go back into layer 3. There's my layer 3. Okay, cool. So I'm going to implement a new logic brick for this thing. So always, when this thing is spawned, when it's spawned, it's going to move slowly towards my player. So it's not like too crazy. Right? So let's do this. So I'm going to add a sensor always. And then on an actuator, it's going to move by itself without me touching it. That's the AI piece. I'm going to go motion, right? Simple motion. And it's going to go negative Y, like, I don't know, let's try 0.1 for now. It's pretty fast. Let's see what this looks like. If I just, on this view here, just go P. And I can't see anything because there's no, I'm going to make it so that it's, my object is it's shadeless. So let's make this shadeless for now so I can see it, and press P. That's how fast it's going to move down the screen. Okay, so that's not bad. That's not a bad speed for me to get it. That's pretty close to the player, so it's going to be challenging to stop him. I'm not going to make him shadeless now because it's going to take the light source for wherever it's incoming. The player is going to see him. If I want to, which might be a good idea, I might want to start this guy a little further back, like down here somewhere. Right, so this is where I probably want to start him, like somewhere back here. So my spawning point then should probably be somewhere way over here, my center spawning point. Right, now remember, I want a random spawning point pretty soon. So I want one to appear there, and then I want to wait a little interval. It's going to appear somewhere else and appear somewhere else. I want to do that. Okay, and I can do that by adding in another constraint, is what it's called, right? For now, let's leave it so that it spawns, it starts moving down. Let's make the simple game. Okay, now it always spawns. So it doesn't matter where I put this thing, it's going to be the same object. Okay, let's go back to layer 1 now. Okay, so there's my ship. I'm going to go into top view. I'm going to zoom out and move this thing down a second, right? And if you notice, right, here's my grid. I want this thing to appear somewhere over here, which means that I've got to make it I got to look at it from the right side, and I want to look at it so that my cursor is somewhere up here. This is where my enemy ship is going to appear. Now, if I look at my cursor now, right, if I look down here, my cursor is at 0, 0, 0. I want it to be up here with everything else 0, 0. So if I go here, right, my Y is 11. Let's move these back to 0 and 0 so it's centered properly. Oops. So there's 0, 0. This is going to be my spawning point over here, right? And I'm going to create a new spawn location for my enemy spawns. I'm going to press Shift A, and I'm going to go into empty, And again, I can use a plain axis for empty. Here it is, right? I'm going to rename this empty, so it's enemy spawn. Okay, there's my enemy spawn. Now my enemy spawn is going to come in, and now this is the trick. It's my sensor that I got to be careful about. Which sensor is it going to be? So here's my enemy spawn. I'm going to go add sensor, and if you notice, here's a bunch of different ones. Play, random, random. My speed, here, so at random intervals, right?
What empty do we use? We use empty.
Just any, the empty with axis, random axis, like the axis one. Plain axis, yeah. You can use any one, actually, it doesn't really matter. The only thing is if you use a circle or something like that, your object will shrink down into the circle. So whatever you make that circle, if you make a big, massive ship and you make a circle like this big, it'll shrink down to the size of that circle, which is kind of weird and useful sometimes. All right, so I'm using a random sensor. So randomly, and you'll see how this works, randomly, when it does that, I'm going to go edit object, and I'm going to create, sorry, instead of edit object, I'm going to say add object, and it's going to be enemy. I'm not going to add any velocity or anything like that. It's just going to come down the screen. And let's just check this out just like this. So P, and look at that. That's like the enemy's just coming at you. Like tons of enemies, right? That's too many, right? So we can change the interval for a second, right? So watch. If I press P, I get a lot of enemies coming at me, right? That's not what I want, right? So if I go here where it says frequency, if I click this first button, so it's pulse mode, frequency, if I hover over frequency, it says the delay between repeated pulses. So 0 is no delay, means like it's going to be randomly generated all the time, right? And I want to kind of put it so that, let's say the delay between pulses is 20. Let's see what happens there. So P. Right? Still too quick. Huh? It's right here. So I click this little button here, which is my activate triggering, right? It's got random, but the frequency is too often. So I'm going to go back and change this frequency to like 50. And this is usually like, or 100 milliseconds, let's say. So I press P, so randomly, and there's the first one, right? And you wait quite a bit of time before the second one comes along. There's the second one. Now, there's not a lot of light, and it's coming at you from this. So if I look at the top, there's my top ortho view, and if I press play now, right, and I move my guy around, and now I'm going to see if this thing comes into view. There it is. This is what it looks like. So there's not a lot of light, and what I think I need to do is I need to put a lamp. So I'm going to Shift D. I'm going to create a lamp. I'm going to go across the y-axis and put a lamp next to my spawn point. Now again, my lamp is pretty strong, so let's see what happens. It's going to pass through my lamp. It's going to be like a weird, warping effect, right? Let's try this out. So bam, right? So there it is. And there's more. So now it's coming right at me. Now you can't see that it's actually physically hitting, but it is. And it's going to come at me in approximately random intervals of 50 to 100 milliseconds. That was pretty quick. See? So what I want to do to see what it's doing physically on the plane, here's the axis. I'm going to look at it from the right side now so you can see what it does. So P, and there it is. So that's how big it is, and now, bam. If I want to zoom in, did you get it going?
No,
Make him move first on the on the third layer. Give him a simple motion, right? Yeah. Okay, I'll go check you out in a second, Igor. So let's take a look here. I want to look and see what it looks like from a 3D view. Take a look at 3D view. So press play, and then it comes right at me. Right? Look how it's coming at me, right? So it actually does hit me, right? Look, that's what it really is doing. It's coming right at me. So it is going to collide with me. Right? Bang, bang, bang. Okay, good. So that's the first thing. So the first thing is did you help them out? So it's always, and you're going to connect, make sure they're connected. There you go. Sometimes we forget to connect the wires. All right, so again, this is my enemy and my player, right? And it's very simple. So the enemy is going to come out and he's going to hit me, right? If it's not bright enough for you, like you're not happy with how bright it is, you want to make it really bright, which is totally cool, or you want to color the enemies a different color, which is also something we do a lot. You can change the specularity type as well. Like for example, I can make it very specular, my ship, really shiny, right? And I can change my specularity so it's more of a yellow color, like this, right? To make it more yellowy or red or green. If I like more green or more red or more yellowy, I can do that, right? It's based off where the sun is, the light is coming from. And the same thing with my. So if I want to make my ship green, here's something I want to do. Let's do it so that ships are good ships are green, right? And my enemy ships are red, right? So I go into the third layer, and I click on my enemy ship, and instead of my specularity being nothing, right? I'm going to increase my specularity to 100% and make them a little bit reddish color. And now when I go back into my main layer and press play, then it should come at me with more of a reddish glow. And that's interesting what he's doing here. Look, take a look what he's doing. I'm getting it from, I'm not truly in a top-down view here, right? It looks like I am, but I'm actually in top perspective mode. So that's not top ortho. That's more like top ortho mode. Which is also something weird too. Like I don't know if you noticed something. There's something else that's weird about this mode. See, I expected the alien ship to come at me this way, right? With his front being pointed like this, right? Now, here, let me just add a light in here so you can see what I'm talking about. So you see what I'm saying. So I'm going to add so cursor to center. There it is. I'm going to shift A to create a lamp in this other layer. And let's make it a point lamp again. But our point lamp's going to be very bright, like 10. So really, really bright. So here's my layer. I'm going to press play. Look what's happening to him. He's falling way down here, right? So that's not what I want for him, right? So here's his thing. And the motion that he's taking, it's a Y motion, but my player, which is this guy, he's a static dude, right? He's actually moving this way, which is kind of weird. That shouldn't be, right? My Y motion is this way, but when I press play, he moves down. And that's what I'm seeing on the other side. And it's probably because from a X rotation perspective, yeah, I know. But the problem is that this is the funny thing. In edit mode, in rotation mode, if I go to 0, so I'm going to go back to 0 for a second. This is what it really looks like. This is the real orientation. Because see how I reoriented? That's why I'm seeing it in that weird way. That's why it's coming at me in this messed up way. It's coming at me like this, like his arms are outstretched like this, right? Which is kind of weird to me. So I need to I'm going to go into edit mode, right? Like you said, and I'm going to rotate across the x-axis 90 degrees. So rotate across the x-axis 90 degrees. Now it's oriented properly. I'm then going to edit mode. Now this is how it should come at me, right? So if I press play, it should come at me this way. Okay, now let's take a look at it in. Did you make it work? It's weird? All right, so let me move out. Okay, so there's my spawn point. This is all for you, Josh. Just, you know, I know you're boring you, but it's truly all. I'm trying to make it so that you said, because in the beginning, Josh said, hey, you know what, Tom, I want to do 2D, right? Because he says 3D is boring. So I'm trying to make him happy, and he's falling asleep. Okay, let's go. So Pete. All right, there. Now that looks more realistic, right? So there's my spawn point, and he's coming right out of my spawn point, right? Now I'm zoomed out, way out here. So now I can fire at him, right, as he's coming out of my spawn point. Now, it's too close. This is my spawn point right now. And what I want to do is move this way out over here, right to the edge of my screen. So this is my screen. I'm going to press play. And now I have a chance to kill him, right? Because now he's going to come out, but he's going to be way over here. Right, now I have a chance to hit him. Okay, cool. So the only way I can hit him with my bullets, right? First of all, let's see if they actually do hit him. And the way to do that, of course, is to move into a 3D perspective mode again, and move my view so it's behind the guy like this. So there's my 2D perspective mode or 3D perspective mode, and this is where the guy's going to come out. Let's see if I can hit him. Am I hitting him? I am hitting him. Actually, he's actually bouncing off. So it is going to hit him when it comes at him. So that I'm just testing. This is just my testing mode, so I can see what it's going to look like from a 2D perspective, right? Okay. So I've got that going on. So my bullet needs to collide now. When my bullet, this is the thing you got to say, when my bullet collides with the ship, it edits the ship and removes it. That's what I need to do, my enemy ship. So it's on my bullet now. So I got to go to my bullet layer and click on my bullet so I can see it. And there it is. There's my bullet layer. I'm going to zoom in, and just so I can see that I'm working with my bullet. I don't have to do this, by the way. Take away this motion. And now I'm going to add another sensor. So I'm going to add another sensor that says this, collision, right? Now if you notice, I need a property for my collision to work, right? My enemy doesn't have a property. I'm going to have to add a custom property. So I'm going to click on the enemy, right? And even though I can't see him because he's in another layer, I can add a game property on the right-hand side here. Take a look. Right here you go. Let's take a look right here. Add game property. It's not my bullet. I'm actually on my third layer here, and I'm adding I've got this guy selected. I'm going to add a bullet to a game property to the enemy, and I'm going to call the game property enemy, lowercase e. And I'm going to change from a float type to a Boolean type. I'm going to click the checkbox so it's true. So my enemy has a Boolean property that's true. He is an enemy. Okay, cool. That's one thing I need. I also need to do the other way around. I need to know when my player is being hit. So when my player gets hit, he's removed, right? So here's my player. So I'm going to go back to my first layer and we'll zoom way out here. Here's my player. And I'm going to add a game property for my player and call him player. And change this from float to Boolean and check it. Okay, cool. So my player's hit, or my enemy's hit. Okay, good. Now I'm going to go back to my bullet in my second layer. And here's my bullet. I'm going to select my bullet. And I don't need necessarily a property here, because whatever's going to happen is my bullet's disappearing. My bullet will disappear at the same time my enemy is going to disappear. So checking for my collision. Here it is. Check for a collision with an enemy that or another object that has the property of enemy. Right? So if this is true, then what am I going to do? I'm going to add an actuator, which is an edit object, and instead of add object, I'm going to end object. End object, right? Now this is this object here that I'm ending. So my object is being ended, this one, right? So I'm going to get rid of my bullet. That's what this is saying, if I do this one. Okay, this is not what I want though. I want to get rid of or edit my object, right? Or do an action. Get rid of my object. Let's try this out. So let's get rid of this for a second. Leave my and there. And add another actuator so I can get rid of. Now, edit object only allows me to add objects, right? I can go replace mesh, which is what you do when you have an explosion. Replace the mesh with an explosion mesh. It does something else, right? I can add another object, like an empty object. I can do that. So it does that. I can replace my mesh. If I go replace mesh, it replaces this mesh, the one that I'm pointing at right now, right? That's what this thing does. So if you notice, my bullet is interesting. If I collide with this, I want to end my bullet. That's what I want to do. I want to go do this again. So edit object. My bullet gets ended, right? So it goes end object. Good. Okay, now, good. And that happens with the enemy object. Now, I need to add another game property for bullet and call this bullet and go with Boolean and check it. Good. Now, I'm going to click on my ship, and now I'm going to make a collision with my ship. Add sensor, collision, right, with an object that has a property of bullet. If I collide with a bullet, right, I'm going to edit object and end the object. Okay. So when I collide with my bullet, this object goes away, right? That's what this is doing. This one? Just enemy. I've called it. My property is called, every object has a property it's got its own name. Enemy, a player, bullet, whatever. And so when you're looking, you're listening for, I'm colliding with another object that has is this kind of object. Now the problem is, let's make sure for this, in order for this to work, without causing a weird situation, right? Where you're going to go, Tom, it doesn't work, right? You're going to say that right away. Two things. You got to make sure that the bullet object, right, is not a ghost. Can't be a ghost. Nothing can be a ghost. If you have a ghost in any one of the objects, all of them have to have collision bounds. Your enemy has to have collision bounds, right? That's important. And fine, if it's okay if it's a box, collision for now. And same thing with your player and all that stuff. If you don't have collision bounds and all these things, like player has no collision bounds, right? The collision won't happen the same way. Okay, cool. So I've got collision bounds on everything. I'm going to go into my first layer. I'm going to go into the top view, right? I'm going to scroll out as an example and move this down again, right? And scroll out more so I can see the top of my spawn point. Here's my spawn point. I'm going to change from user perspective to user ortho and press play. Okay, and let's see if this works. So bang, 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 bang. See, it's gone. And so are my bullets, by the way. If you notice, that bullet that hit him went away. So it doesn't continue. Once it hits the guy, it's gone, right? Okay, cool. So once I kill my enemy, right? Let's see if my hit here, now he's hitting my character. So if my enemy hits my character goes away. Okay, let's try that. It's another collision that we didn't do. So we move this one up. And I'm going to go to, now right now I've got my player selected. And you can see here on the outliner, it's also selected the player. What I want to do is go add sensor collision, right? And nope. So what I want to do is I want to listen for an enemy. So when my enemy hits me, right? Or if I hit the enemy, I disappear, right? So I go add actuator. I'm going to go, this is one thing I could do. I could go to scene, right? Take a look at this, right? Scene, restart the scene. So if I die, I can restart the scene, or I can stop the scene, right? Resume, suspend, remove the scene, set camera. I can set the scene. I can restart, right? As an example, all these different options for the scene itself. I can also, so I mean, when it hits me, I'm done. The game is over, right? I can go game, right? And I can say quit game. So when it hits me, I'm going to quit the game. Right? Let's try that. So here, it's going to hit me. When it collides, if I collide with my enemy, I quit the game. I don't have any more lives for now. There's no lives, right? Okay, and let's say if my enemy, I don't have to worry about if my enemy hits me to get rid of him because I've quit the game, right? So let's try this out. So if I get hit any time, I quit the game. And I did that by, here's my logic bricks. No, I collision, enemy, and I press game. That's the one I'm choosing. Quit game. All right, let's play this thing now. So press P for play. And let's see what happens. So I'm going to let the guy hit me, and then it should stop the game, right? And hey, what happened? And well, it does collide with me, right? Because if I look at this from a perspective mode, right? So here I am. I'm going to pan in here a little bit so I can see from a three-dimensional perspective if the enemy crosses me. This is my collision. This is my collision bounds. Take a look. My collision bounds are a little bit weird. They're like below me. That's weird too. Look at that. And it's probably because the way I've translated my ship. That's bad. So my ship is here, but my collision bounds are down here. That's bad, right? So, and again, this happens sometimes when you import objects. That's another weird thing. Instead of box, I'm going to make it so that it is convex hull. So it's up here. Oh, I know why. Look where my origin is. My origin is way down here. So I'm going to go set origin to geometry, right? Which moves my ship a little higher than it was before, right? And now let's move it back to box because box is cheaper. It's better. There we go. So this is my geometry. So my geometry for my sensor is here, right? Okay, let's see if it actually hits me. So press play, and let's see if it hits the ship. So if it passes through my ship, then there's a collision. So it does pass through my ship. It does collide. It's colliding a little weird. My ship is a little high up for my enemy, but it's still passing through my ship. It's still colliding. This, it should be, making noise right now. Okay, so that's kind of an issue. Let's see what happens. Let's see why that's happening. So if I go to collision, and I'm colliding with enemy, make sure it's spelled properly, and I'm going to game, quit game, that should totally work. We can also try this, just to try something else. I'm going to make a sound, so every time the ship hits me, right, it's going to make a boop, some kind of weird sound. First of all, we have to have the sound to make that. So we'll do that. That's the last thing we'll do. All right. So for sounds, for games, what I like to do is go to bfxr.net, bfxr.net for the sound, and we'll pick a random sound, like a power-up or some kind of explosion. Right? That's what the sound is going to sound like. Right? So when I get hit, I get that sound. I'm going to export the wave, and let's call this hit. Right? And it's going to go into downloads. Right? And save. And now in here, right, when I collide with my ship, my collision with my ship, my enemy, happens, then I'm going to add an actuator to make a sound. And I'm going to choose my sound by using the hit sound, press open, and then connect with it. Okay, let's try this out. So press play. So when it connects, it should make a sound. And you can see that there's no collision. Because if it was colliding, this hit wave would totally work. And this is play stop. Right? The other way to test this thing is to make another sound really quickly. Right? I'm going to make a laser shot. There we go. That's my laser shot. Right? I made that with bfxr.net. Export my wave file. So we'll say laser shoot. Call this the shoot wave. Save. That's good. And now every time I fire I click my left mouse button, which is not here, it's under my bullet spawn. So there's my bullet spawn. My mouse does this, creates my object, but also I'm going to add a sound. Here's my sound, which I'm going to make it shoot. And I'm going to connect them. So I can connect both the sound and the actual edit object all at the same time. I'm also going to see if I can move this up so it's not too far, right? Just from a management perspective there. Okay, so let's say if I press play and if I fire. All right, it sounds funny. But the reason why it sounds like that is because under sound, it's play stop, right? Whenever I press the button. And what I want to do is I want to play end. Let's see if that works. Okay, so that works. When I press my button, the sound works. When I hit the guy, when I hit him and he goes away, I can definitely make him explode because when my bullet, I have a sensor, so when I go to my bullet, that sounds funny, eh? My bullet collides, right? Here we go. My bullet collides with my object. It ends the object, ends the bullet, right? And when my guy collides, my guy dies. Here's my enemy. So I know this works, right? So I know it's ending. He's ending the object, but I'm also, at the same time, I'm also creating a sound, right? And here we go. I'm going to make a hit sound. So the sound is going to be a play end. And so at the same time, as he's being ended, play stop because kind of it keeps on, it starts from the last place that I played the sound. Right? So if I do this now and I go, let's go up to the top here. I know you guys are saying that's a cheap sound, Tom, but that's okay. So here it is from the top. So there's my enemy. I'm going like this, and then it needs to hit and go boom, right? So how do I do that? My hit wave has got to play anyway. And I think I'm going to go loop end. Let's see if that can work. Without him ending. Yeah, it didn't quite. You heard it, but it's gone, right? Because I ended him. Whenever I end him, that sound's gone. Right? So the other trick to it is to put it on my bullet and not let my bullet disappear until the sound is over, right?
But it can keep doing it.
What was that?
But it can keep doing it.
That's a problem, right? That is a problem. So I'm saying there's tricks to that's cheating. Yeah, it's cheating. But that's the way. So making the sound, connecting it with the bullet, and then making it go away. So we get the rudiments anyway. As you can see, I can start detecting by playing. This is, and you see how long it takes to do all this stuff, right? But what I want you guys to do is don't lose this file. Next time we get together, instead of starting from scratch again and making all this stuff again, let's start with something. Right? Let's start with this. So I'm going to save this thing, my spacegame.blend. Okay. And one thing I wanted to show you is that I've got kind of another game that I made, right, for this demo that I did. These kids are coming from the school, and I kind of put it together for this thing. Let's see if I've got it here. I may have it here, right? And I've got my models. I got my A-wing and my Earth, my Moon, and my scene. Here's my scene 1. I wonder if this is the one. Yeah. Okay, take a look. So this is my game that I made. Same kind of idea with Blender, with my A-wing fighter and my Star Destroyer, right? And let's just see how it goes. Okay, so I'm going to play it. Hopefully it won't crash. And there we go. So now what's happening is I can move into the Star Destroyer. Let me try that again and get rid of this N, and I'll toggle off the T so you guys can see it, and I will make this so that it's much bigger like this. The scene hugs my area here, and press P. All right, so here I am. So here's my ship. kind of traveling. So I've got my perspective of my ship. My camera is actually following, and what I can do is I can fire, and there's the X-wing, or the TIE fighter, I mean, and I can kind of chase them, right? Sorry, it's kind of clunky, and they're gone, right? It's gone. But you see what I'm saying? See what happens? So I can go P for play, and it takes a while for it to, you know why? Because this thing is massive, right? I can fire, right? It's firing at the big Star Destroyer. It's like this thing is far away. If I keep going at it, and I'm actually going at quite a clip. Let me show what I'm talking about here. I did this in like, you know, an hour or whatever it was. So you have to bear with it. But you can see that as I pass by the ship, it's massive. Right? And I'm also not getting really cool effects. Like I'm turning like by turning my mouse, which is kind of weird, right? It shouldn't be that way. It should be like, you know, turn. And look, so these are all the, I've got some spawn points of these TIE fighters, right? And I can kind of speed behind them and try and knock them off, right? So here, I'm kind of behind them now. I can try and, like, if I actually hit them, they're actually being moved by my bullets. Watch. So I can actually kind of speed behind them, and there's a group of TIE fighters that kind of come out at a random interval. Right. But the idea is pretty much the same. If I turn around, I'm going to be bombarded by these guys. Yeah. Points, yeah. Because many, and then you're spawning the same enemy over and over again, multiple times, because it's just an object. So there it is. So if they're spawning, they're coming at me at random intervals, right? Of course you can. You can make it so the spawning point is just an object, right? So you can make it move in a random direction, right? And then that's one. So it always moves in a random direction and left and right. Let's say it goes like this. Move left all the way, and then goes an animation, goes right, and then moves back and goes back like this. So it keeps on going like this. And then at random intervals across that moving line, you spawn enemies, right? That's the trick. It's pretty simple, right? And it's going to keep doing that over and over again. So from a 2D perspective, you'll see like it's random enemies coming from different places on the line, right? So the idea here is, again, you're tricking. It's a trick for the computer to come up with this stuff, right? It's not what you're actually seeing here is just all tricks. It's all you know. Again, it's just coming at you, these little TIE fighters, right? Now, if you want to see what they are, take a look. Here's my TIE fighter, right? So before I guess go, so here's my TIE fighter, the perspective view, right? So it's actually a model of the TIE fighter that I got online, right? Not a great model, but it is what it is, right? And then the same thing goes with my other stuff. If I go to the other views, right? My bullet, like we did today, and I think this one's a Star Destroyer. Let's see, it's like massive. Each one of them has a different object, right? So if I go to my outliner, like these are all my different TIE fighters, or my different boxes. And you can make as many of these things as you want. Cylinders. This is part of my Star Destroyer. It's massive, massive. Right? And this is my main scene. This is where all the objects are. Look, they're all separate. It's just the way they made that. Whoever modeled it so that you could break this thing up and explode it, right? So they made every piece of it small, right? Like all different pieces, the lights, the panels, all that stuff is there. So you can always make it explode and reform. There's actually a modifier that you can use called a build modifier, which will build up the Star Destroyer, like make it kind of build, right? Well, in the same way, you can make it so that it destroys it, a destroy and build modifier. And there's also ones that you can do so that you make all the piece parts blow apart. So it looks like it's exploding. Yeah, exactly. You can do it, you can parent them all. That would be the thing that keeps them all separate. So they're parented, but they're not. But they, you know, you realize the work that's involved with that. Each piece, like there's thousands of there's like look at the pieces that we got going on. Like someone's made lights and turrets and all this kind of stuff, like really crazy. And the thing is, this is a good model, good sized model. So if I was to zoom in here, and man, I'm zooming right now, right? If I go in right into that thing, like there is the detail that we're talking about for the Star Destroyer is massive. It's crazy, right? Like someone actually modeled every little piece. Look at, look at. It's like totally realistic. Now I got this crazy model, and this takes the longest to load. When I actually play this game, it's like massive to load this thing, right? So it's kind of neat. The idea here is to take this away. You can easily make a game with Blender, is what I'm trying to show you, that has shooting, that has a little bit of all the stuff that we're doing. Next time what I want to do is I'll try and get some assets for you ahead of time to make almost like a Mario clone, right? Where we have a platformer, right? Because really what it is from a platformer perspective is the guy's moving on a platform. It's just blocks. When he jumps, you have the player jump action, right? He can only move right and left and jump. That's really all he can do. You're looking at it from a side view, so you can make a platformer like that. Yeah.
But we will need two different types of collision with enemies. If side collisions, then player dies. If from the top, then
Easy to do. So remember, because what you're thinking is, let's go back to, it doesn't have to be for this, by the way. Let's go to new. So let's say I have my block, right? So in my block, could I not put other blocks?
yeah.
So I could put a block within a block. So let's say, I'm going to join this block for a second. So we're done for the day, guys. If you guys want to take off, I just want to answer Igor's question here. But if I want to change this, bye. Enjoy your weekend. So here's, let's say this is my collision point for the side. So I can make this as one side, and Shift D along the Y-axis for the other side. So here's my other collision point. So this will collide one way, this will collide the other way, right and left.
And from the top another.
Right, and then or from the bottom. Because maybe what I want to do is when I jump on something, I want my bottom to collide with the top of the other one so I can take them out, right? I've got to have a way of doing it. I could also use, I've seen planes used before too, but I like boxes better because they're a little thicker, so there's more of a collision space, right? And you want to hide the box within the other box. So for example, if I go Shift A for a cube, right, there's my cube, and I want to move this thing. And if I go back to this, you see how there's one box that's here, and another box that's here, and another box that's here? They're all within each other, right? What I probably want to do is kind of make this a little bit smaller, right? So kind of make it so that, and I can make them invisible in gameplay, right? There you go. So there's a little, and I'm going to maybe move this in a little bit. Right, so I want to kind of move this in a little bit. So it's kind of sticking out, right? But in gameplay, if I go to Blender Game, right, as an example, all these objects are static objects, right? So in Blender Game, here's my object, really quickly. I want to show you what I'm talking about. And let's say, add a new material so that it's green, right? And you can see that these materials here, I'll make them red, right? So here, red, and I'll pick a random material. Oh, yeah, there it is already. Okay, so they're both the same material. So these materials are red, that one's green, and then in Blender Game, I want to make this invisible, right? So when I press play, right, hold on a second, and this one invisible. Press play, you don't see it. It's there, right, but it's an invisible object that you're going to collide with, and it creates the collision from different sides. Now this is a cube, and what we're going to do is use a sprite, right, that we're going to show on different faces with a transparency. So when the guy moves, when he's like this, you see a guy that you see an actual object like this. When he moves this way, right, he's going to move this way, and he's going to have a different side to him, a different face, right? Because you can make whatever what you're going to do is on the cube itself, you're going to layer a mesh that has different sides to it, front, back, top, or whatever. So it looks like the guy's whatever shape you want, right? Make sense? That's it for me, guys. enjoy your week off, and when we get back, we'll have more work to do, and we'll do stuff.